So thank you for joining us for today's Fed Talks, Creating Shared Society in Israel. My name is Mary Hanley, and this program is hosted by the Jewish Community Federation and Endowment Fund. Before I turn the program over to the Federation's Chief Philanthropy Officer, Rebecca Randall, a couple housekeeping reminders. This program is being recorded and will be available after today for reviewing and sharing with your friends. Please use the chat feature to ask questions. The chat will be monitored throughout the program and we'll raise your questions during the Q&A period at the end. If you have any technical questions or issues, please use the chat feature to let me know. And with that, I turn it over to today's host, Rebecca Randall.
Thank you, Mary, and good morning, everyone, or rather good evening to those of you joining us from Israel. I'd like to add my thanks to Mary's for participating in what is the first program in the Federation's new Fed Talks Donor Education Series. For the next several months, we'll be hosting monthly sessions on timely and relevant topics that feature experts and organizations working nationally, locally, and in some cases globally to advance change, all through a Jewish lens rooted in our core values: tzedakah, or charity with just intention; tzedek, justice; kehila, building community; and tikkun olam, repairing the world. The goal of these programs is to help our community better understand all of the complex issues that our society is facing and to give us tips, tools, and pathways to have a positive impact. Offering these kinds of opportunities for our community is just one way the Federation is evolving to become a center for Jewish philanthropy. We're kicking off this series with a conversation today, as Mary said, about shared society in Israel, which is top of mind for many of us these days as Netanyahu's new coalition government rolls out its policy priorities, many of which we are concerned run counter to the values and beliefs that the Federation, and I know many of you on this call, have long held dear, like pluralism, inclusion, and increased opportunities for peace and normalization. In fact, through the generous support of this community, this is what the Federation has actively been funding and working towards in Israel for over 30 years in some form or another. To share more about this work and to lead today's discussion, I am delighted to introduce the Federation's own Barak Luzon, who directs the Federation's office and efforts in Israel. He'll be moderating a discussion with our panelists, who I'm really excited about. They are also working on the ground to build a shared future for Israeli society. I'll briefly introduce them and we'll add their full bios to the chat. Our first panelist is Noah Jashan Batshon, CEO of Co-Impact, which works with the largest companies in Israel to build diverse, inclusive workplaces and increase the number of Arab employees in Israel's private sector. Our second panelist is Hagit Rubenstein, Vice President of Operations for Koret Israeli Economic Development Funds, which invests in businesses in Israel's shared cities to create economic opportunity for both Jewish and Arab populations. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Barak, Hagit, and Noah. Barak, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And thank you, everyone, for being here with us this morning, our evening. These are challenging times here in Israel. Especially if you are very much concerned about the democratic image, present and future, of this beloved country, especially if you're a minority, especially if you're an Arab. Now, while that is not our core kind of issue today, we would actually like to take you to maybe one of the, and give you kind of a snapshot of maybe the most hopeful and exciting part maybe of Federation work, promoting a shared society with equal opportunities for all in Israel. Federation has been doing this work for more than 30 years, as Rebecca mentioned, and this work has evolved, throughout the years, of course, as the Israeli reality kept on evolving. We would like to share with you, a little bit of demographics and a little bit of not data, but actually more about what do we mean when we say shared society, just before we kind of, dig into the into our great panel. Just a second. Here we go. So a little bit of demographics. You don't see it yet. Here it is. A little bit about demographic data, a little bit about our Arab society in Israel. The Arab society in Israel encompasses around 20% of Israelis. We were around 9 million people. They are around really 21% of us right now. So it's only almost 2 million Arabs living in Israel. Their geographic distribution is quite interesting. I think you would see that there more than half of the Arab community actually lives in their own localities, especially in the northern side of Israel, in the triangle, in the center of Israel, center east, in the Negev, most of the Bedouin community, and in mixed cities, and of course, in the Jerusalem corridor, what we call in East Jerusalem. The places where they reside, are mainly, as I said, local councils, villages, and so on and so forth, but also in larger cities in Israel. Mostly Muslims, relatively small minority of Christians and Jews as well. When we talk about shared society, what is it? What do we mean when we talk about shared society? So the basic concept, the two pillars of shared society would go around partnership and equality. Partnership, we mean, how do we promote joint work, integration, inclusion of these 20% of us Israelis, Arab Israelis, who are part of us, but for many reasons are not included in the work environment, for example, and in higher education, and in many areas of our lives for various reasons, and we will touch on it in our conversation. So how do we integrate? How do we include? How do we raise awareness to this issue? How do we manage to work with a different identity? It's not only a cultural identity, which is as it is a difference of identities that is significant, but it's also national identity. Many of Israeli Arabs, what we would call Israeli Arab, they would call themselves or define themselves as Palestinians who happens to live in Israel or who lives in Israel. How do you do that when you have 20% of you, or most of it, identify as what is now perceived as the enemy of the state, right? As part of the enemy of the state, the Palestinian kind of people. Solidarity. How do we create solidarity and tolerance in this kind of context? These are the partnership kind of components of it, but equality is something that Federation and other funders and also the government, as you'll see soon, we were working on it a lot in the last two decades. So closing socioeconomic and other gaps, reaching equality and equal opportunities, either through the workspace or through early childhood education and health, through integration to the academy, and of course through leadership programs, promoting leadership and advancing leadership within the Arab community. I want to kind of briefly just take you into the evolvement of shared society. We have started, I think, the funders who are really involved in this work started back in the even 80s, in the beginning of 80s and then the 90s in a work of coexistence, really bringing Jews and Arabs together from kind of people to people work. The first Intifada was brought a lot of criticism. The main criticism is that activities were too neutral. They were focused on joint encounters, empty of substance, failing to address structural inequalities outside of these dialogue rooms that we all kind of brought people together in. And then the increased effect of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as things evolved, the inflection points in the conflict increasingly polarized Jewish-Arab relations, forcing players to address this connection on the conceptual level internally within their organization and vis-a-vis their beneficiaries. Then, Davka in Netanyahu's government, there was a growing governmental investment in closing socioeconomic gaps impacted integration of Arab citizens in the academia and in the labor market, contributing to the creation of an Arab middle class. Almost no governmental budget for shared society. So pay attention. In terms of equality, lots of money, government money got in. Not all of it was kind of executed or used because of various reasons, but that was the kind of the target, the purpose, the target of the money. The whole idea of partnership, really building partnership and shared society in the deeper sense, what was left to philanthropy or to kind of grassroots initiatives. And then shifts in discourse on Arab political participation and Jewish-Arab political partnership. The nation-state law back in 2018 and fourth, turbulent round of elections deepened controversy around political participation of Arab voters and politicians. At the same time, these processes ultimately paved the way for the first ever Jewish and Arab governing coalition. If you guys remember, a couple of years ago, after the violent, maybe the most violent revolts between Jews and Arabs in the streets of Israel, 1 month after these revolts, we had the first Jewish and Arab coalition in the government. We couldn't make sense of it, but that happened. So what we think we saw is a action and reaction, integration of the Arab community, making Arabic and Arab presence in the Israeli public sphere more normal than ever. And while that is happening, a huge backlash, a huge kind of reaction of forces who would like to see us more, national, want to see the national Jewish home as the national Jewish home, with less and less, presence of Arabic and Arabs in Israel. Our two speakers today, our two guests today, I think can give us a taste of not only about their, talking about their wonderful, impactful work they do on promoting shared society, but also giving their own personal perspective on what it means to be, to see their action in the world from the lens of shared society, both personally and from their kind of professional perspective. I would like to start with Nawa Jashan, the director of Co-Impact. Nawa, can you say a few words about yourself? Who are you? And both personally and professionally, and take us to learn about you from the lens of shared society in Israel.
Thank you very much, Barak, and thank you for having me today. And of course, thank you for your support, San Francisco Jewish Federation, over the years to Co-Impact. As I already said, I'm the CEO of Co-Impact. We are the partnership for breakthrough in Arab employment. We aim to create diverse and inclusive shared workplaces in the private sector using collective impact model and through in-depth change processes that we aim to work with the companies and give them the infrastructure, buy-in of the company CEOs and the senior management in order to create the change that we are aiming. We are targeting the 100 biggest companies in Israel in order to create the wide impact concerning Arab employment and shared society. What we actually believe in, that when we have shared workplaces in these companies, this is a unique platform for creating a deep social change and working towards shared society. But we also promote economic and social integration of the Arab society. We are the largest minority in Israel. And this will, in the end, of course, strengthen the Arab society and the national economy and of Israel, of course. And now I will tell you a little bit of myself. So I am originally from Jaffa. Jaffa is a mixed city, Tel Aviv, Jaffa. My parents are from the north. They got married and moved to Jaffa. This was something that really exceptional when we talk about 40 years ago. So we grew up in a mixed city, and I went to an Arab school, yet we were very exposed to the Jewish society in our neighborhood and in the community center, and this has affected me a lot. Also, the home that I come from is really into social change. My mom is a lawyer that promotes women, Arab women, and my dad is working in creating theaters for the Arab citizens in Israel. And this is something that is also unique. And this is I got from home, how I can promote my society and how we can create a shared society. Also, being an Arab, I can say that I myself have felt a lot of what I am aiming today to change. When I have had my MA in the university and in organizational psychology, I had to do an internship and nobody would take me. Even that I applied and sent CV like my classmates, but I didn't get any phone call back. And then my professor had to work with his connection so I can get an interview. Also, I felt that when I was looking for a job in the job market, when I couldn't apply for any position, only if it would be concerned to the Arab society. So I felt that this is something that we need to deal with to create equal opportunity on the one hand for the Arab society, and on the other hand, to create also a mixed and shared workplaces when Jewish and Arab can work together, and the Jewish can also see role models and young and even adult people from the Arab society. I don't know if you are familiar, but most educational system in Israel, and of course there are some schools like hand in hand, they are separated. We have Arab schools and Jewish schools, so many times the Arab and Jewish do not meet each other on a daily basis. And we actually try to do that around the job market and the work market. Also, I can tell you that today I live in a Jewish city. I did that also when I was a student. We live in Be'er Yaakov. Although I'm from Jaffa and my husband is from Lod, it's also a mixed city. But in Lod it's a very complicated city, and I don't know if you heard, but when we had the escalation in May 21, most of the escalations were in Jaffa and in Lod, and we weren't able to live in Lod, and we felt that it's not suitable for our children. And Jaffa today is very, very expensive. The municipality brought a lot of investors to Jaffa, and it's very hard to have a home and apartments in Jaffa. So we decided to live in between. It was not easy. We got a lot of no's when we wanted to know answers when we wanted to buy a home, and we had also some help from our friends. But what I'm sharing with you
got refusals from people from kind of Jewish owners
yes,
who were not willing to kind of sell you their home.
Sell us, and even before to rent us apartments when we before we decided to buy an apartment. And I am telling you this so I can share with you the experience that a lot of Arab deal with when they go to the real life in university or in the job market, or even to buy or rent apartments. But yet we feel that we need to do a change for our children, and we can create a different atmosphere and environment that can also take in consideration the Arab and Jewish, and they can also live together. Through Co-Impact, I can tell you today that if I wasn't working in Co-Impact, I probably would be less optimistic concerning what is happening in the government. But today we feel.
No, sorry, I couldn't hear you. So we will come back to this exactly kind of point in a few seconds, and would love to kind of hear your take about, you know, what is it in the Jewish community or in Jewish society that enables such a perspective, you know, on the Arab community, and how you deal with it in your work in Co-Impact. Hagit, it's great to have you here. Can you say a few words from the lens of shared society about yourself, both personally and from your kind of professional capacity?
Great, thank you. Thank you for being here and inviting me. I work in an organization that deals with helping low-income populations create a micro business. And in the past 20 years, we've concentrated on working with the Arab population, mainly with Arab women. The reality is that it's very difficult for them to get a good job as employees. As we just heard a few anecdotes, but the reality is out there. And so for many women, Arab women, the possibility of creating a small enterprise is maybe the only way to get income for themselves and their families. So we've been concentrating on the equality part, meaning trying to give these women an opportunity to develop themselves, their families, and to narrow the economic gap that is happening between them and their communities and the rest of the country. So this was our focus until 2 years ago when we just heard again about the riots in May, and we decided that we should focus some of our attention on the mixed cities, those 8 cities where there's a minority, an Arab minority of more than 10%. And we started working, and the Federation is helping us with it, on trying to create economic corporations and economic development in these cities that are shared by Arabs and Jews. We believe that through economic development and interest, maybe we can create a bridge that will connect the two communities that often live completely separately and don't have too much connection together. So this is our goal. I hope that when we meet next year, I have a lot to tell you of what happened, but we just started it a few months ago. We are currently working, we started in Akko, Haifa, Lod, and just now starting in Jaffa. So it's very exciting, very difficult. There's a lot of prejudice and not easy to make the two groups come together, but we are optimistic that like we helped a lot of Arab women create a micro business, we can also cross this challenge. Now, a word about myself. I was born in Kibbutz Kfar Blum. My parents are South Africans. And from day one, for me, being equal was part of my life. I didn't think there's another option anywhere. And when I left the kibbutz after the army, I realized that there are a lot of populations and subpopulations in Israel that are not equal. They don't have the same rights, the same opportunities. And for me, working with the Arab community is like breathing. I mean, if I want to live in a democratic country, in a place where my kids can grow and be the right kind of people, then the 21% of the Arabs in Israel must be equal too. And so for me, working with the Arab population is essential for my self-being, for me to stay sane. In our organization, we have 32 employees, out of them 26 are Arabs. It's a challenge working in a mixed Jewish and Arab organization, but my goal always is to have everyone feel equal. It's all not where you live or who your father is what you do that makes the difference. I'll stop now and
Thank you, Hagit. Thank you so much. Now, going back to co-impact, say a few words about the kind of the theory of change, why you're doing what you're doing in terms of advancing shared society from your perspective, and what are the challenges that you are facing. You can also relate to the recent development with the new government and so on and so forth. But maybe start with what is the main strategy of co-impact? What is it that you chose to do and why?
So as I said, in co-impact, we aim the biggest companies. We aim to create an impact concerning the employment of Arab society in the business sector. That is why we aim the biggest companies, because we know that when the biggest companies lead the change, they can influence other companies that we don't target, medium and small size companies. Also, we work a lot top down and bottom up, meaning that we have the CEO and the senior management working with us for two reasons. One, the CEO is usually who is responsible for the culture of the organization he or she is leading, and we are aiming to change the culture concerning diversity and inclusion. And the other, on the other hand, when we have the CEOs and the leadership of the business sector with us, promoting employment of the Arab society, they can be the leaders and the alternative leaders to the political leaders concerning and promoting the importance of the integration of Arab society in the economy and in the business sector and creating shared society. And we work we have a very process that is systematic. We work for 3 years with each company. This is really a long-term change and a very deep one. We have the companies understand that there is a very big business profit business case when they integrate Arab in their companies, but also there is a social win. But we understand from a research that we did that what talks to the companies is the profit that they can have. But I can tell you today that working with the companies and the senior management, we saw their real leadership, especially in challenging times, when we had the escalation in May 21, and the political atmosphere in Israel was really bad and negative, and the media and the politicians were talking, the discourse was really separating and taking the Arabs as enemies. We had our leadership, 70 CEOs and business owners, signing a letter and spreading it out through our business council, saying that we need to look about the future and the common between the Arab and Jewish, and not to go through negative ways. Also today, after having the new government and all what they are saying concerning minorities, even LGBT and Arabs, we see companies that most of them working with us taking a stand and saying that they will not be promoting discrimination. And this what I think can give hope, because when we work with the companies, we change them from the inside, but we also change their state of mind. We create a leadership that is willing also to stand and speak up. And I can tell you also that I can hear today the companies talking also about the organizational resilience, because when every day they talk about diversity and inclusion, and they create shared workplaces and they hire Arabs, so they feel the resilience even in hard times, and this is also an extra win. And I think that it gives hope, especially for the Arabs, because the Arab, as Barak said, we are doubling in the academy. There is a new middle class, and we want to give hope. We don't want to create separated societies. And
but
today,
now I'm thinking. Sorry, I'm thinking about what you said before. I mean, it got a little bit kind of stuck in my head. This Jewish family who refuses to rent out or to sell a house for a beautiful, I know your family a little bit, so a beautiful Arab family, right? What is it? I mean, maybe this guy is one of your CEOs in the companies. I mean, is this pure racism? Is this, what is it? How do you see it?
Yeah, yes, I thought a lot about it, especially when we rented the house and the guy was working in a governmental company. And I said, wow, it's crazy. Is he like this also at work? And yes, it's hard, because I know that even people who wanted to work in the center, they weren't able to. I live in the center, so it's okay. I can manage with my parents, but some people wanted to come to find job in the center, and they would have find job, and they couldn't find an apartment, and it's crazy that. And I think it's more stereotype and unconscious attitude toward the Arabs. I think it's more because of ignorance. And I am sure that if you ask people, they will say that they are not racist, and they have many reasons why not. And this is really sad, but there is, I don't want to say that the whole picture is very negative. Still, some people would rent and sell, but there are many that will not. But I think that through changes and working together and creating shared living in different aspects and projects and programs, I think that we can balance what we are hearing from the government. What we feel today as an Arab concerning the discourse in the government, it's like it's getting again legitimate to talk about Arabs as enemies, and in the last, yes, and the last election is like the winner, he is the one who will create a government without the Arabs, as if the Arabs is an enemy. So and yet in the same time we want to integrate Arab with Jewish in workplaces, in academy, in schools. So this is like a dissonance. So yeah.
Thanks, Nawa, and thank you for your honesty and kind of sincere kind of question. Hagit, say a few words about how might impact loans and small businesses, mainly for women, not only but mainly for women, is a strategy that actually promotes shared society from your perspective.
Well, in the end, it all comes to economy. So they say that the situation is that when a person cannot have a reasonable salary from any kind of job, having a business is often the only option. And what we see, we've supported more than 7,000 Arab women across the country in the last 15 years. And it changed their life and their family life, and often even the villages where they live, because once the woman has an income, it affects her kids, the education the kids get, if they go to university or they don't go to university, and a lot of things like this. And it also influences the opinion on the Israeli state, because in the end, we are a Jewish organization, although we have a lot of Arab employees. But when I come to visit in some Arab village somewhere, I'm Jewish, they sometimes I say, I'm sorry, but I am. And it shows that there are things in Israel that are happening that can connect Jews and Arabs with the same goal of improving the situation and the well-being of the ones who have less. But I wanted to say something about, I live in Haifa, which is the mixed cities in Israel. We have more than about 15% of the population are Arabs. And I actually let out a small apartment somewhere in Haifa. And I had an incident where one of the neighbors came to me and say, please don't continue to rent out to Arabs, because I always had Arab students, young people who rented out. And I just said, because you said it, I will continue always to rent it out only to Arabs. And it's, in the end, it's individual. What we decide to do with the reality around us is how the country will look if we move away the politics.
But Chagit, I've been working for Federation in the last kind of 10 years or so. And this audience here, and maybe people who will hear or kind of listen to this conversation, I think will be kind of interested in getting a little bit of kind of the psychic of it, like why would someone who will, I'm sure, perceive himself or herself as a very tolerant, well-educated, good Jew in many ways, will say no to have an Arab neighbor? Is it pure racism? Is this the result of incitement? Is this ignorance? What is it? I mean, these are folks that we know.
Well, you're asking the wrong person. I think there's a lot of racism in Israel. I see it in the banks. When they say no to an Arab woman who comes to get a loan, it's usually not because she has any bad credit, it's because she's an Arab. And we see it everywhere. And it's frustrating. It's annoying. You can scream and shout, but in the end, that's the reality. We just have to look at this government who at least we don't know what they will do. Okay, we don't know what they will do, but from the way they speak, they are racist. You can't call them anything else. Now, why are people racist? Because they are ignorant, because they are afraid, because they are worried that maybe their daughter will marry a Muslim, which is what can be worse.
So you're saying fear?
Yeah,
But
fear is a big one.
Fear of what?
Fear of something different, fear of changing their habits, fear of if there'll be too many Arabs in Israel, maybe Israel will not be such a Jewish state. It will have to be a democratic and open state for whoever lives in there. And then Rosh Hashanah will suddenly not be such a great, not the only holiday. You can also celebrate Ramadan.
And you also mentioned intermarriage. So you think
yes,
intermarriage between Jews and Arabs are also a factor here?
Yes. Also, if you look just the way they treat the Russian immigrants that came in the just now out of Ukraine, and it turned out that a lot of them are not officially Jewish. So they're worried that the non-officially Jewish Russians will marry their Jewish daughters. So it's not only Arabs, it's anything that is different. Soon I will be an outcast too. That's where it's going. Looks very bad. But I'm. Yeah.
We have couple more minutes just to kind of finalize this part, and then we would like to open it up for people to kind of ask questions and have kind of a Q&A together. So now when you look at towards the future, when you look at your daughters, your kids, what is it that you see?
I see that the situation in Israel will not be easy, and we see that the atmosphere here is getting more extreme and more right-wing and more liberal or even promoting agendas that do not bring the importance of justice and equality, and I fear that it can be something that is, as I said, legitimate and common. Yet I am optimistic that there is still forces that work toward the good things and the reasonable and positive things, like the civil society that is getting stronger, the business sector that are really active leadership, and the conscious economy, matspun, something that is and they are part of also of the change and the philanthropy, of course, that can be also helpful, and some of the program of the government that for me I can say concern the Arab society, the 550 program. Hopefully that the new government will not kill it, but these and of course the local authority and cities of the Arab municipalities, there are strong forces today, and I hope it will balance. And I think also that the middle class, the Arab middle class also today is more aware and more active part, and more willing to integrate in the Arab society. So there are a lot of positive changes that is happening, and this keep me more optimistic of what is happening around us.
Do you see your kids growing up and staying and living in Israel?
Yes, yes. My kids, by the way, they went to a Jewish kindergarten because we live in Be'er Yaakov, but then they continued to an Arab school in Jaffa. It's a multicultural school. So my kids, I can tell you, till an age of 7, 8, did not know that there is Jewish, and like every person is just a person, not Jewish, not Muslim, not Christian, and they only in the age of 8 or 9 would start asking, why is this and why is that? And I am proud of that, because it is not something that is usual here to raise kids as persons and individuals, and not tagging him if they are Arab or they are Jewish or Christian or Muslims. And I am proud of that. And also my kids are exposed to many cultures. I know it will be helpful for them, and maybe I can be a role model for them like my parents, because I want them also to be active a member in the society when they get older.
Amen to that. Hagit, a word from you, future, maybe through your the beneficiaries of the program, young men and women who are now building their own businesses and their own selves. Do they have future? Do they see future in Israel?
Well, I think that overall, when you look around, the Arab population that live around Israel are usually, especially the women, in a much worse situation than they are in Israel. So it's all relative. I mean, even if the Arabs here are discriminated and they have all these issues we came up, they're not thinking of leaving to another Arab country. If they will leave, they will leave to Europe, etc., which is difficult. It is not an easy thing. Big families, it means cutting your roots, etc. But one thing I do want to say about changing strategy with a new government that is coming is that in the especially the last year with this amazing government that showed up and left us, we were looking for the government to help us, help the world, change the world, but now we're back to us, to making it happen on our own, the organizations, the private sector, the philanthropic world. We are the ones who have to do it and show them that they are wrong. That's what we have to do.
Thank you very much, Hagit. Thank you very much. Now, we can now open it up for questions. So, Mary, you want to take us away?
Yeah, thank you very much. We've had a few questions through Q&A, the chat feature. Please feel free to send additional questions as we go through this. So the first question I received comes from one of our participants. Economic and business integration is at the ground level in Israel and at the global political, i.e. the Abraham Accords, is critical. The question remains, do Arabs accept Israel as a Jewish state? Sometimes it's easier to understand that if someone won't recognize you, who you are, and accept you, how do you see a future with that person? This must be part of the ongoing struggle. So perhaps I'll let you respond to that.
Well, I can say that I work a lot with, I mean, as I said, a lot of the people I work with are Arabs, and most of our clients are Arabs, and the majority understand that they live as a minority. They, it's not really a question whether they want to, whether this country can be different, but they do expect to get equal opportunity, even though it's a Jewish state. They expect to have equal opportunity and not be treated as enemies or outcasts, etc. But I'll maybe give now the opportunity to answer from her side.
I would say that as Arab, I cannot speak. I would say in general, we all accept that Israel is a Jewish state. We want to be integrated in the society, in the economy. Of course, there are some extreme people, but there is also extreme on the people on the Jewish side. So I think it's something that that exists in every society. But most of the Arabs do want to be integrated. They accept Israel. They obey to the laws. I can tell you that even when there are some discourse concerning taking some villages and towns and moving them to the Palestinian Authority, people object that, not because they do not want to be in the Palestinian Authority, but they feel that they are living now and in Israel and they want to be part of Israel. And I think that most of the people do accept Israel, but yet it's complicated because we are also Palestinian, and we want also that there will be a peace between the two states. So we are like walking in a delicate situation, but again, most of us do accept it, and today we see it in the young generation that the aim is to be integrated in Israel.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, our panelists have discussed quite a bit about what the work they're doing in with Jewish businesses and in Jewish areas of society to incorporate Arab employees and individuals. Is there any similar work in Arab businesses and Arab parts of society to discuss their role in mitigating some of the security worries or issues that might hinder incorporation?
Okay, so we in Co-Impact, we aim the Israeli largest companies, but we have a business council that consists of Arab and Jewish business owners and CEOs, and they promote the whole agenda of diversity and inclusion and integrating the Arabs in the business sector. And they really work with us closely concerning our issues. But the main target is the 100 companies. I can tell you that through the Business Council, we also promote general issues like how we can diverse the board members of different companies, how we can create senior level of Arab managers in Jewish Israeli companies and also Arab companies, how we can create collaborations between them. And also I can tell you that we also try to create when we work with the companies, part of the beside of the change that we are doing inside, we aim to position the companies in the Arab society. So we put the companies in the front of the Arab society so they can tell the Arab society that they are leading a change. And when big companies like Coca-Cola and Nuva, which is a leading company in the milk industry, and Microsoft or Google, and this is like global companies, when they talk and they outreach the Arab society, this is also deliver a message that the change is going also to the Arab society and not staying inside. But we believe that the Arab leaders, business leaders, should be part of the change. That is why we have the Business Council. Also, we have a community of Arab young people who are been working for a few years in the business sector, because we also see them as ambassadors of the change that we are trying to create by creating by them being a role models and success stories for the younger generation. So in the end, it's like a lot of stakeholders that we use and work together to create the change.
Hagi, do you want to refer to the
Well,
idea of
what I do want to say is,
business?
when we start working in one of the cities, what we do is we usually collaborate with organizations that work with both groups, with both communities. And then we have a representative, Arab representative, and Jewish representative of the city that share the common goal of creating a better place for everyone. So it's a combined effort. It is not necessarily the Jewish part that is doing in the Arab, it's something that is happening together.
Thank you. Let's see. In addition to supporting the Federation's annual campaign, how can I leverage my philanthropy to support a shared society in Israel? Are there international organizations I should avoid funding because they support divided Israel?
Well, I can say one thing. There's an organization that was born and is active in San Francisco that is called Kiva, K-I-V-A. It's a person-to-person platform that allows people to support micro businesses across the world. And we are the Kiva's representative in Israel. So every month we put up in the website of Kiva a few entrepreneurs, mostly Arab women, but not only, that receive help from us. And through Kiva, we actually raise the funds to give them the loan. So it's nearby you, and you can go in even just to learn about who the entrepreneurs are. And the other thing is that when you come to Israel, if you come, and when you come, go to these shared society cities, mixed cities, go to the markets, buy vegetables, arts, things like this that are produced locally, avoid Coca-Cola and the big companies, and go to the micro businesses and support them, and that way you will give them a lot of help.
Mary, if I can add for just a second. One thing that we've identified recently as funders here on the ground, and you know, ones who are really kind of wanting to engage in partnership with organizations that are working on shared society, is actually that the field is changing a little bit. And what happened is that because the Arab society is actually getting integrated more and more to the larger Israeli society, because of the increase of Arab middle class, who are now, as you see now, are integrated into buildings of Jewish communities and so on and so forth. Suddenly, we have decided recently that we actually invest less funding in ideological, I would say, programs that bring Jews and Arabs together, like hand-in-hand school, if you know, like, all kinds of initiatives that kind of bus, Jews and Arabs to come together for encounters or to do things together. But we actually try to identify schools, hospitals, shopping malls, workspace, like you see here, that the integration of Arabs is almost natural. And frankly, no one meant that. I mean, it wasn't an ideology to integrate, but now there's a huge diversity of Jews and Arabs of all kind, working together or teaching or learning together in this college campus or in this kind of super farm or whatever. And now we see that the formal authority of these places, the head of department, the director general, and so on and so forth, now they see the evolving reality. They actually see it almost as a normal one because it helps their core business. However, they do understand that they need to do something. They need to shift a little bit how they see things, and they need methodologies. They need help. So in terms of strategy, as a federation, we have now both encouraged research on this phenomena. They call it in the academy circumstance integration, meaning it's an integration not from ideology, but just because the circumstance created this integration. And now we follow this idea, and we help develop tools and methodologies to help more and more integration that is more, I would say, natural, less ideological, more kind of, market forces and natural. So that might be another venue or another way to look at how to invest in kind of, moving forward. Rebecca?
Thanks, Barak, for that. I was just going to add that the Federation is doing more to curate organizations. So for those of you that have donor advised funds, if you were looking for ideas on organizations like Co-Impact, Kiva, KIDF to donate to through your donor advised funds, or the Federation's annual campaign, this is exactly the work that we are doing as part of our overall efforts. Mary is posting in the chat one of our curated giving guides. We have vetted all of these organizations. These are our partners and are really doing outstanding work. Many of them are available for both grants as well as what we call impact loans. And Kiva and KIDF are terrific examples of that, where we are pooling philanthropic dollars into issues like mixed cities and shared society that we know you care about. And then there's the ability to reinvest the funds at the end of the loan term. So this again is available for our donor advised fund holders. And just wanted to point that out as a great resource as follow-up.
Thanks, Rebecca. I've added that in the chat for you. Please feel free to follow up with any questions. And unfortunately, I think that's all the time we have for Q&A. I apologize we weren't able to get to all the questions, but I will share your questions with our panelists. I wanted to note that we have 2 upcoming Fed Talks before we let you go. The first one, the next one, excuse me, is in February 22nd. We'll discuss countering anti-Semitism, both here and around the world. And then on March 8th, we'll have a conversation about taking action on climate justice. So I'm adding the links to both of those conversations to register for those in the chat as well. And with that, I turn it over to Rebecca.
Great. I just wanted to take this last opportunity to thank all of our speakers. I appreciated both the personal and the professional perspectives that Noah and Hagit and Barak all shared. And I'm walking away from the conversation both equally concerned about the state of affairs in Israel and optimistic, although maybe it's not equally, but at least I'm holding both emotions of alarm and hope. And the hope is really in large part because I'm inspired by the work that's happening in Israel by our partners like Co-Impact and KIDF. And I'm deeply appreciative that they are tackling these incredibly tough challenges and doing so in partnership with the Federation. I'm also appreciative on behalf of the Federation for your support, which makes all of this work possible. So again, thank you for joining us, for your thoughtful questions, for our speakers, and we hope to see you again at our upcoming events in February and March. Thank you so much. And for those of you here in the Bay Area, stay safe, stay dry, if at all possible, with all of the storms we are experiencing. Have a great day. Thank you.